rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, tonight, I honestly had, it's not very often that I actually have trouble with trying to decide on a topic or a title for the show. I mean, most of it is driven by the, current events that are going on in this world. In fact, many times, I come in, I start to do show prep. I do show prep usually for roughly the hour prior to going live. And it's typically easier for me because, actually, I take that back. I do show prep for most of the day. I go through a lot of the different articles, things that are popping during the day and that kind of stuff, and I put things together. And the last hour is basically me coming up with the title, putting all of the stuff into the show notes, and those kinds of things. But occasionally, I run across a situation where I can't necessarily come up with a concise title for the show or a particular topic. And that kind of happened tonight, although tonight I want to address a couple of things. In particular, I have this one apparently very persistent detractor over on Facebook. Now, I'm not going to tell you her name yet, but I will put it out there when we get to that segment of the show. Because she seems to have the thought process that because she apparently has a degree and that she has gone through all kinds of law classes and constitutional law that, she obviously, again, kind of a hoity-toity sort of individual, that she has the ability to, educate me on things like how the Constitution was written, things that the government can and cannot do, that kind of stuff. And so I'm going to cover a little bit of that tonight. Also, too, we have some more Epstein information that has been brought to our attention thanks to the drop of 33,000 pages of documents that admittedly were heavily redacted. So there's that. Also, I want to talk a little bit about schools and a tiny little bit about demonstrating how stupid these leftist morons actually are. So all of that is up for tonight. Also, too, we have a fantastic Pet of the Week at the end of the program. It's a two-part Pet of the Week. So this is part one. For Pet of the Week, we will have part two next week, submitted by our very own Coco D. Insert name here. And it's actually kind of near and dear to my heart, honestly, because it deals with equines. So stay tuned for that at the end of the show. But first, let's go ahead and get things stood up. And for tonight, we have Definitely Not Karen. Definitely Not Karen is up for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hats, if you're wearing one like me, and place your hand over your heart and follow along with Definitely Not Karen as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, definitely not Karen, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, I would appreciate it if you would send it in to me. You can share it. You can record yourself, either audio file, video file, record yourself reciting the pledge or performing the pledge in your style, and then take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file that you create, and either send it to me or share it to me. If you do it on your phone, apparently if you share it, that's what you do, is you share. But anyway, send it off to me. Send it to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. I have 19, folks. Only 19. I need 20. Come on, somebody get me 20. Somebody, somewhere, get me 20. All right? I'd like to get 20. So send it in. Send it in. Oh, Ms. T. Ms. T just gifted 10 subscriptions to my fans. So there you go. And wow, I'm not even going to bother listing all these people, but these are all people in the Rumble chat, and they have been gifted memberships, subscription memberships to this channel. And there you go. So thank you. Yes, and Ms. T says, I like a little color on the chat screen because, of course, everybody who has a subscription comes up as pink. So there we go. All right, Deb over on Facebook says, I'll do one. Well, great. Thank you. Do one for me. Send it off to me. Get it here so we can get you into the rotation. All right. Also, too, Jarhead13 over on Rumble. Yep, you can do one, too. Shoot, that'll make me at 21, so I'll have to get 22. So there you go. Wow, there's a lot of pink on the Rumble chat now, thanks to that wonderful donation by Ms. T. Thank you very much, Ms. T. Of course, you know, that benefits me as well as the subscribers. So anyway, all right, let's get on with tonight's headline sponsor, which is, of course, as soon as I can figure out which button to press, TGRN. That's True Grit Roots Network. TGRN. Tonight, I want to talk about a new album that is dropping from Walter Trout. That is over on Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. That's WTBR, which you can listen to directly at tgrn.net. And you can head on over there and listen. Be the first to hear the album, the full album, at 1 p.m. Central Time on Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. Then you can join him on YouTube at 2 p.m. Central for a virtual Q&A. And then we're going to spin the album, which is called Sign of the Times, again at 3 p.m. Central on Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. Walter Trout is a blues rock icon, and you can go and check out his bio as well by going to tgrn.net. You can check out his bio under the Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio menu item. But this will happen this Friday, September 5th. Again, you can hear the full album, Sign of the Times, at 1 p.m. Central Time on Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. Then join him on YouTube at 2 p.m. Central for a virtual question and answer session. And then have a replay, respinning the album, Sign of the Times, that is dropping once again at 3 p.m. Central Time on Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. And that is happening on Friday. It's a world debut. and the album release of Sign of the Times by Walter Trout. So go and check it out at Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. You can find us at tgrn.net. You can find the links to both Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio as well as Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio, both channels presented by, signature channels, I should say, presented by TGRN. So there you go. All right. Yep. Go to tgrn.net. We're based out of Austin, Texas. Make sure I hit the right button here so I don't screw things up, because that's just the way things go. All right. First things first. So there was a drop. There was a drop. Oh, wait, before, what am I doing? Oh my gosh. Before I get too much farther into it, tonight, of course, is
down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
That's right. It is Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. Now, I was supposed to do that before I started talking about Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio, but here's what I'm drinking tonight. I'm drinking out of the Buffalo Trace bottle, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, and yeah, so there you go. 3 Chevy over on Rumble is doing his Yoda impression. Drink with whiskey, you will? Then Stones, you must have. Yeah, Stones is right here. There it is, True Grit Roots Network glass. See, I usually do this before I announce True Grit. And anyway, there it is. There's the Stones in the bottom, cooling things off. There we go. Oh, I got. Why do I have to move the mic away from my face? I've got a face for radio, not a face for here. Anyway. All right. All right, so there we go. Yes, it is Wednesday. It is Whiskey Wednesday. Okay. On with the show. So the 33,000 pages got handed over to the House with regards to the Epstein files. And yeah, anyway, with regards to the Epstein files. And so what ended up happening is, well, let's just say there's a lot of redactions in the thing. There's a lot of redactions in the thing. And that pretty much Thomas Massey, of course, got pissed. And he basically was like, yeah, these things are basically so redacted that he got mad. And he goes, they're so redacted, they're useless. And anyway, so Massey has decided that he is going to invoke, what is it called? A discharge petition on basically yesterday in an attempt to force a House vote on releasing the Epstein files. Now, a discharge petition, as I've pointed out to you before, must have 218 votes, which is considered a majority of the House, in order to move a vote forward. So if 218 representatives do not get behind Thomas Massey, there won't be a vote. So, yeah. Anyway, Ro Khanna is saying that he believes that all of the House Democrats would sign the petition. And if that happens, at least 6 Republicans would also sign, and that would make it. And Massey, of course, is saying that he's 2 Republicans away from passing this discharge petition. So we have Massey and Green, Representatives Mace and Boebert of Colorado. Those are the only 4 so far Republicans that will sign this petition for a discharge. Now, here's the thing, folks, and I'm just going to point this out, okay? There might be a lot of things that they cannot put out there. In fact, you know, this redaction stuff that they're talking about may very well have the names of the victims in the thing. And so that could be why they're redacted. So, anyway, one of the victims, who is an Epstein accuser by the name of Jenna Lisa Jones, she talks about how it was her, she told CNN that she met Epstein when she was just 14, and that he was the one that was her first sexual experience. She said, "I remembered crying the entire way home, thinking about how I couldn't ever tell anyone about what actually happened in that house. This guy," meaning Epstein, "was so rich and had so many pictures of so many famous people, and no one would have ever believed me if I told them." Well, that's part of the problem. Just because somebody has photos in their, house of all these people doesn't necessarily mean that any of those people are involved with this. And so far, all I've really heard from a lot of these victims is a bunch of, "Oh yeah, we know a bunch of powerful people," yet there's 0 names. There's not a single name being dropped, not a single name being said. There's only innuendo. There's only suggestions. There is nothing in terms of factual, credible evidence. And even in the trials, no factual, credible evidence has popped out or been presented that has been able to incriminate anyone else other than Epstein and Maxwell. Now, I'm not defending Epstein, okay? I'm not defending him whatsoever. The guy was a sick individual, all right? His madam, quote unquote, his madam in Maxwell, she is sick and perverted, and realistically shouldn't even get any kind of special compensation or dispensation for her tell-all or whatever it was. Okay. At all. And if there are any individuals who can be, again, verifiable facts and evidence proven that they were a part of this, and again, I'm just saying, there was a principle in this country. It's called innocent until proven guilty. And this particular one, realistically, you need that innocence. So, yeah. Again, there wasn't anybody put on trial at either trial, whether it was Epstein or Maxwell's trial, either one of them, that indicated that anybody other than the 2 of them were actually in this. So, yeah. I'm sorry. Now, all of this being said, all right, is that there are some Epstein victims, one in particular, Lisa Phillips, said that she and other survivors of Epstein and his co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, plan to release a list of those involved in the abuse. Phillips said Epstein was not just a serial predator, he was an international human trafficker. And many around him knew this. Many participated and many profited, and yet he was protected. I know what it's like to be trafficked to others, and I know the files contain the names of powerful men who have been shielded because of their fame and fortune. She goes, and let me announce now, several of us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list of names. She added to the cheers in the crowd. She says, we know the names. Many of us were abused by them. Now, together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names we all know were regularly in the Epstein world. Notice she doesn't say compile the names of the people that abused us that we have verifiable evidence for. All she says is we're regularly in the Epstein world. And she continues and says it will be done by survivors and for survivors. Now, here's part of the problem again. Okay? Part of the problem. Unless you can prove, you can have verifiable evidence, unfortunately, there is nothing that anybody can really do about this. And if any verifiable evidence was presented, it would have already been presented at the Epstein and Maxwell Ghislaine, or Ghislaine Maxwell trials. Already would have been there. But hey, if you want to release that list, go right ahead. Now, here's a bit of a problem, okay? Or, well, it's not a problem for us because we pretty much already knew this. But NBC tried to put together a group of individuals, a group of the survivors, and also the husband and the brother of the Joffrey lady. I can't think of her first name right off the top of my head. But anyway, who the girl or the lady who took her own life over this. But they brought them together. They brought them together and they put them on this panel and they asked a bunch of questions. Now, I kind of went through the interview. It's about a half an hour long. And I went through a majority of it. And again, a lot of this has to deal with very vague things. In fact, even one of the survivors was even asked point blank, hey, can you name any names or something similar to it? And she basically was like, well, I'm uncomfortable revealing that information. Okay, again, folks, not that I'm saying that she's lying. I'm really not. I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying she is lying. However, there is some suspicious methodologies here at play. One being that, hey, if you have a name, if you literally have a name and you have verifiable proof and you can take that to a court and prove with that evidence that what happened to you can be proven in a court of law, then why don't you just put it there? Why don't you just put it out there? Why don't you just say it? Because if you say it and they go and say, hey, now I'm going to sue you for libel, guess what? Now you've got them trapped. The trap has been set. The trap has been laid. You now have them trapped because they're going to take you to court. And then during discovery, you can all of a sudden produce all of this verifiable information that you have, showing that they are whatever it is that you are accusing them of. It's pretty simple. All of that being said, though, there was one point at about 21, almost 21 and a half minutes into the interview that is going to set the left on fire. If they bother to even recognize this simple fact. Now, keep in mind, this is an NBC News exclusive. This is NBC News, one of the left-leaning organizations that you would ever run across. This is NBC News, and yes, I am emphasizing that for all of the leftist morons who are out there who are trying desperately, sorry, got to switch this so that I can get it set right, trying desperately to prove that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files as being a, rapist or pedophile or whatever. Take a listen to this.
I do have to ask, and I know, and it's just something that I think we're compelled to at this moment, with the attention on President Trump, with these questions around a pardon. Did anybody see or hear of the president himself doing anything inappropriate as it related to Jeffrey Epstein?
No.
Or former President Clinton?
No.
Are you glad there?
Did you catch that? Did you catch that? Did you catch that? She literally asked the entire panel, do any of you have any? Did you hear through the grapevine? Did you do anything at all? Did you hear anything at all of Donald Trump doing anything untoward during your time? And what was the answer? No. The answer was no. And now she also asked about Bill Clinton. None of them said, yes, I have. Not a single one. Now keep in mind, NBC News is a news outlet. They have certain protections when it comes to things like, libel and slander. These particular individuals, though, apparently don't. So if they cannot prove what they say or what they are thinking or anything else, then of course they're going to say no. Because that's the smart play. We don't say anything about that. Now, keep in mind, okay, I'm just going to throw this out here. I'm going to play devil's advocate. The only thing that we absolutely know for a fact is that Bill Clinton was in a very interesting painting with a blue dress and red shoes. That's it. That's all that we know 100%. So, yeah, I'm just saying, okay, whatever happens, okay, it's not going to be this big reveal, this big, massive, oh my gosh, gotcha kind of reveal. We already know probably a good 2/3, if not 3/4 of the information that has been out there for many, many years. If there was anything really untoward, whether it's toward Trump or anybody else, it probably would have already been spread everywhere by both parties. Okay. Now, we do have names of people who did fly out to Lolita Island. Okay. We know that. What they did out there, though, is still up in question. We know that Trump flew on the plane between New York and Florida. Simple as that. We know that Donald Trump is the only one who not only kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago when he found out what he was doing, not only was he the only one who volunteered when Epstein was being tried in Florida court, we know that Trump is not a part of those files, at least not in the way that the left seems to think that he is. But anybody else, hey, if you know names, let's go. Go ahead, put them out there. Now, the question you do have to ask is there any kind of statute of limitations on any or all of this? And if so, because, I mean, this isn't like murder or anything. I mean, there is a statute of limitations. So we're just going to have to see what happens. But the reality of it is that, again, just to point it out, Trump is not part of it. Again and again and again. End of story. That's why trying to get Trump for the 100,000th time, whatever, through this Epstein thing is a whole bunch of bunk. All right. Before I get on to my next, before I get on to my next story here, let's go ahead and talk about my morning routine. And no, I'm not talking about, you want to know what I do when I get up. Well, all I can tell you is that I drink 16 ounces of coffee every morning in my wonderful big-ass 16-ounce father like no other cup given to me by my children. Proud papa. Even though my children are now grown, I still have it around. I drink coffee every morning. You need to know, if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit has just dropped. There are only 1,000 units available. I'm guessing it's probably less than that now. But in each kit, you're getting a bold dark roast that hits hard, a smooth medium roast, so you can figure out which one you want. And you can also try the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All of these coffees are single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you'll also get as a part of the kit, my personal favorite, a gold spoon clip, because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. You'll also be getting a frother that's strong enough to stir up not only your coffee, but also your mother-in-law's personal opinions about just about everything, including your wedding, your job situation, where you live, your politics. Yeah, anyway. You'll also receive a black 1775 tumbler. In total, it's $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just the low, low price of $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 coffee blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Head on over to 1775coffee.com. That's the numbers 1775coffee.com/studio. And / is your question mark key. And grab your starter kit before they're gone. Once again, go to 1775coffee.com /studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that actually stands for something, just like Rumble does. Go to 1775coffee.com /studio and grab your starter kit today. Check them out. All right. So one thing that many people, including myself, have all been sitting here, anyway. And have all been sitting here and wondering how these people can enter into public service and make all kinds of money. Well, one of the people who are in Congress who claims that she is not making any kind of making any kind of like massive amounts of money is Ilhan Omar. Well, she has now had some revelations about her personal finances and her husband's business dealings. It's such that, she had 1 year a 3,500% growth in her wealth. Now, that's supposedly directly tied to her husband's consulting firm, of course. But apparently, a financial disclosure that's been released from May of 2025 shows a net worth of close to $30 million. Now, in 6 years, she's received a 66,676% increase in her net worth. I mean, this is no different than AOC going into Congress after being a bartender slash waitress slash whatever the hell she was, and all of a sudden being worth, $2 or $3 million just because she went into Congress and started making $174,000 a year. I mean, seriously. Now, she defended herself in an interview with Business Insider recently, where she dismissed questions about her wealth as part of what she called a coordinated right-wing disinformation campaign. Except there's only one problem. This is your personal financial disclosure report, lady. I mean, you can't refute your own reporting. You're sitting here talking about, oh, no, this is a disinformation campaign. Yeah, this is, yep. No. No. She did this in her own public disclosure. Now, the Washington Free Beacon is the one that found this evidence and it did a review of the public records. So it's obviously, this has now raised new concerns that she and her husband, political consultant Tim Mynett, Mynett, have accumulated significant wealth in recent years. Yeah. Yeah. So, Anyway, she's apparently worth, in her financial disclosure, she's apparently worth $6 million. And since 2019, her campaign has directed nearly $2.9 million in payments to her husband's company for consulting and related services. Really? Really? Yeah. I can't remember who it was who said this, but somebody, I'm gonna misquote it, so I'll just paraphrase. But basically, if you show me a politician who is rich, who has, become rich being in public office, then I'll show you a crook. Yeah. That's exactly it. Anyway. Yep. So critics are coming out about this, and they're saying that the arrangement highlights a significant loophole in campaign finance law. While federal law restricts direct personal use of campaign funds, payments to family members for services can be permitted if deemed legitimate campaign expenses. That exception has allowed lawmakers to route millions of dollars to relatives under the guise of consulting or other services. So, yeah. Maxine Waters has also faced similar criticism for directing millions in campaign funds to her daughter for services described as campaign-related. This whole thing, I mean, seriously, this whole thing is just a scam. The entire thing. It's just a scam. So, right. Anyway. If you decide to get into politics, which is one of the reasons why I couldn't get into politics. In fact, I even pointed out on Facebook today, the question was asked, what was one thing that you attempted to get into but found out that it's not for you? And full disclosure here, I did speak with one of my state senators long ago about getting into politics. And of course, because I live in Washington State, the communist state of Washington, I I was speaking to a Democrat, and she was attempting to get me into the Democrat Party. Let me just tell you, there's a few times in my life where I have actually felt like I needed a shower after having a conversation with somebody. After I was done having the conversation with her, I literally felt like I needed to not only shower, but I also needed to like scrub the first top 2 or 3 layers of my skin off as well. I wanted to take like a wire brush and make my skin bleed. I mean, it was just that bad. Oh my gosh. She tried to convince me that the Democrat Party was like the Republican Party of old, which is a bunch of shit. Believe me. Now they may used to be like blue collar Democrats, but yeah, they are definitely not part of the, they are definitely not part of the, Republicans, conservatism kind of scenario. Oof. Anyway, speaking of these idiots that are out here, and realistically, I mean, I can't even imagine why some of these people go on shows and things like that, and they're not called out. So Bill de Blasio used to be mayor of New York City, has endorsed or put his, maybe he's not come out and like publicly endorsed him, but has definitely put a bunch of his weight behind Mamdani. That's right. Zohar Mamdani. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his first name right, but anyway, Bill de Blasio, of course, was talking about some of Mamdani's ideas for New York City. And during the interview, he was basically saying that, hey, free busing. Yes, free busing. That works. Yeah, that works. Oh, yeah, he is fully endorsed. Well, here it is in Daily Caller. Let's go ahead and take a listen to Bill de Blasio talking about why he's endorsing Mamdani. Take a listen.
Free busing.
And who runs that?
The city of New York runs it, just like we run so many other services. And the bottom line here is to think about the free buses again. Free buses has been proven to work in many parts of the country.
Where?
I'll get you a list of cities, but the bottom line is it is something that allows people to, one, reduce their costs, which people are overwhelmed by,
right,
to get into mass transit more. It works because we know that if people are given a quality alternative they can afford, they'll use it.
Okay, so wait a minute. Did you catch that? He was asked where. Bill de Blasio says, hey, there are many cities where free busing works. And then he was literally asked the question. Where does free busing work? And he basically said, hey, well, I'll get you a list. Yeah, he doesn't know. He doesn't have it on top of the head kind of thing. Well, here's the thing, is that free buses, and I can tell you this for a fact, okay? Free buses have challenges. They have challenges. Now, the bus system in Seattle City proper, has a free zone in and around the downtown core. That free zone, or at least they used to, I haven't ridden a bus in a very long time, at least one of the city buses, because I don't go to Seattle. I just don't. There's no reason for me to go. But the city bus downtown has a the city bus downtown has this challenge in terms of downtown Seattle, where the core is completely free. And what they do is, there's people who get on the bus and everything else. Well, the challenge, of course, is that hang on just a second. Mrs. Whiskey is trying to get a hold of me, and I'd like to know why. Oh. Okay, she misread the clock. Anyway. All right. So anyway, where was I? Oh yes, the downtown core. The downtown core was basically free. And so they ran the free system. Well, the problem is that they had to recoup those losses by upcharging everything else. Okay? And also, too, keep in mind that in the free situation, you end up where you have the homeless jumping on the buses, riding the buses around for shelter, especially in the wintertime. There's, overcrowding and things like that. Not to mention the fact, as U.S. Abby Girl points out, nothing is actually free. Somebody has to pay it. So anyway, there's also this. Between 2020 and 2023, bus drivers in Tucson, Arizona reported a sharp rise in assaults and lawlessness on free fare transits. Now, Ma'am Danny has promised a long list of what he calls socialist policies, including government-run grocery stores, rent freezes, raising the minimum wage to $30. And all of these things, I'm just telling you, is bad juju. Rent freezes is going to run the people who are in charge of all of those wonderful properties. Those people who are in charge of all those properties, they're going to sell. They're going to want to get out of New York. Raising the minimum wage is going to make the cost of living in New York, even higher than what it already is, because people don't understand the standard of cost of goods and services, Econ 101. They're not going to realize how much that's going to go. He plans on taxing the richer and whiter neighborhoods, which is essentially going to basically make all of them disappear. The quality of life there is just going to go down. Totally down. So, yeah. If Ma'am Danny gets into office as mayor of New York City, I'm just going to have to tell you that New York, you deserve it good and hard. And I think you're going to get it good and hard. So, there you go. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's move on to my detractor. She seems to, I told her a while ago, I said, hey, I don't want to, I'm not going to talk to you anymore because it's a worthless case. And she kept going and kept going and kept going, kept dropping links in my Facebook posts and things like that. And I finally had to say, hey, look, this is a warning. Spamming is going to get you banned. So, yeah. Anyway, the original conversation that really started all this was a conversation with regards to schools. And the schools themselves, yeah, they're just going to hell in a handbasket. And we need to get rid of, like, the Department of Education. So, essentially, what we were talking about and referring to was the purpose of the educational or the Department of Education. And I basically said, hey, the Department of Education puts out standards. They're the ones that have certain standards. Now, think about this. It's like the No Child Left Behind Act, which is actually kicked off into, let's see, what is the other one? No. Give me a second here. So there was the No Child Left Behind. There was the, where is it? Trying to find. There was the other one. There's another one that's been added since then. From the No Child Left Behind. But anyway, so here's the thing. They have standards. starting with Common Core standards. Now, here's the thing. It was this published, there was a study that was published in 2019 comparing the different groups of states that had adopted what's called the Common Core. Now, here's the problem, all right? And this is where the crux of the argument came from, which was essentially this. Between the 1990s and the 2010s, scores on the National Assessment of Educational Progress, which is the national test, generally trended upward. And this was from the implementation of No Child Left Behind, which put in place all kinds of accountability measures, required districts and schools to offer all these additional services, change governance, take other improvement steps. If groups of underserved, they called students, didn't make any promise or any progress. See, all of these laws have created a situation where now it is no longer the states, regardless of what anybody tells you, the states themselves have restricted, let's say, use of putting in their curriculum. See, they have to make these standards, otherwise they don't get money from the federal government. They have to show these improvements, otherwise they don't get money from the federal government. And so it's because of all these standards, which started off kind of with Common Core as a way, but started off with these standards, and that's what started to change our educational system across the board. And it doesn't matter what state it is. If you're a state that has particular standards or things of that nature, okay, that are derived from the federal government, well, that itself is a bit of a problem. Because again, the federal government, and not to mention, let's add in the teachers' unions. They all have had input on what type of curriculum and how it's being taught and so on and so forth. I mean, all of these teachers go to classes to learn all of this thing. And so all of this stuff, realistically, in the education world, all stems from the Department of Education and the laws, the federal laws that have been passed. And this is simply what I was trying to attempt to get across to Shelley Cole. Now, Shelley Cole is an account. I don't know if that's her real name, but it is a public. Obviously, she's posting on a public platform. She's posting on my public page, so she doesn't care if her name is in the public. But Shelley Cole is sitting there trying to tell me that the states are in charge, that the states can do whatever it is that they want. And that's just not true. Because the states, up until Donald Trump has started to scale back the Department of Education and all of the funding and things like that that have been unconstitutionally going to the educational system, all of these things have come from primarily two sources. The leftist-controlled Congress over the past many, many decades, and the Department of Education and the teachers' unions. So all of these things have been pushing things in the schools through many different avenues. Many different avenues, okay? And so what all of this basically boils down to is the fact that, yes, education has been abducted, I should say, by the leftists that are existing in our bureaucracies. And we see this all the time. You sit here and you talk about the standards, okay? Well, here's one of the standards. In 2009, the Council of Chief State School Officers and the National Governors Association launched an initiative to create common national standards, in this case, in English, language arts, and math. Panels of experts went ahead and drafted them. States reviewed and revised them. Within a few years of their 2010 release, so we're now talking 15 years ago, okay, 46 states in the District of Columbia had adopted these standards. Now, you sit here and you tell me that, yeah, education is in the hands and the control of the states, and yet you read this. And by the way, this article is from Education Week. You want a link to the article? It's in the description of the video. So, Shelley Cole, don't sit here and tell me that there is no national standard across the board for what to be taught. Do not tell me that there is no national consensus in terms of what to be taught. It's all there. Now, this started with Common Core, math and English. Now, here's the thing. All but a few states agreed to participate in the two projects, sharing tests for the new standards, as well as financed with a $360 million in grants from none other than the U.S. Department of Education. So here we go. I'm dropping some truth bombs here. The truth bomb literally is that our educational system has gone national regardless of what you think. And that, in and of itself, is unconstitutional. Okay? Period. It is unconstitutional because, Shelley Cole of Facebook land, I want you to show me where in the Constitution it states that the federal government's job is to fund education. I want you to show me that. You still haven't provided a single quote anywhere within the Constitution. Oh, but wait a minute. Now I understand. Because you say, Shelley Cole, you say that the Constitution is malleable, that the Congress is the one that holds the power of the purse, and they can make laws on anything at all, anything that they want. But before I address that really quick, let me just point out that Common Core has now expanded beyond just math and English. Common Core has now expanded to other things, to other scenarios, to other curriculums. Because of the fact that for whatever reason they seem to think that Common Core is the way. So here's an example. The Next Generation Science Standards, which were released in 2013. There you go. That was developed by a, quote, bipartisan network of 26 states and several research and professional organizations. Where do you think those research and professional organizations might have gotten their funding from? Yeah. And these standards outline what K through 12 students need to know about physical, life, and earth and space sciences. You remember that whole thing with regards to, transgenderism is a thing? Yeah, that came from a study, a flawed study, which I'm sure is part of this Next Generation Science Standards. Yeah. Now, there's even more. There's the C3 Framework for Social Studies and State Standards. This one was developed by state leaders and 15 social studies professional organizations. Really? Wonder where they came. Okay? Wonder where they came from. Again, now, in art, there's called the National Core Arts Standards that's been adopted by at least 14 different states. There's also the National Sex Education Standards. Gee, I wonder where that stuff came from. Folks, this, and keep in mind, they put it under the guise of, yeah, you know, none of these standards, you know, the states don't have to adopt them. Really? But yet, these standards being placed out there, do you think the Department of Education isn't going to say, hey, you know what? You got to test to these topics under that whole No Child Left Behind and some of the other legal things, laws that have been written by this? Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So don't tell me that there's no standards. There's no national standards. Don't tell me that there's no common place for all of this nationally speaking. And don't tell me that these states are free to do whatever they want when federal money, if these students can't pass tests that show their aptitude in these things, okay? That show their aptitude in these specific areas, and they lose their federal funding. Don't tell me that the school districts, and especially the states, don't say, well, we better mandate this crap, regardless of whether they believe it or not. Now let's get back to this whole thing about, oh yeah, you know, Congress can just make up whatever law they want. I mean, they have the power of the purse. They have the power of the purse. And so therefore, because of that, they can make laws, whatever kind of laws that they want. Well, I've told you on this program multiple times that Congress, it has a list of enumerated, let's call them subjects, that they have control over. And that Congress, and in the Constitution basically outlines specifically the items that government can do, as well as things that the government can't do. But what that means basically is that anything that is in the Constitution is specifically designed to, hey, this is what the federal government is supposed to cover. And this is also what the federal government is supposed to have their hands off of. Now, during the time that the Constitution was being debated, and frankly, Shelley Cole, I don't care how many law classes you've had. I am simply pointing out to you that our government has grown outside of its constitutional boundaries by leaps and bounds. And here is the absolute truth. The Constitution enumerates specific areas that Congress is supposed to make laws within. And this is backed up by Federalist 14. You know that guy by the name of James Madison? Yeah, he kind of like authored the Constitution with a few others, but is mainly known as the father of the Constitution. You remember that guy? Yeah, I remember him too. He wrote these articles, what is now colloquially known as the Federalist Papers, and in Federalist Paper number 14, and by the way, these Federalist Papers were the debate to the public, essentially, so the public could read them and determine and learn about what this Constitution was doing and what it was supposed to do. Well, here, Federalist 14. And I'm going to try and I've got a highlighted phrase right here. This Federalist 14 is actually the one singular place where they talk about this. And let me read to you this highlighted line. James Madison writes under the name of Publius. I think I may have messed that pronunciation up, but that's okay. He writes this line. He says, in the first place, it is to be remembered that the general government, meaning the federal government, the general government is not to be charged with the whole power of making and administering laws. Its jurisdiction is limited to certain enumerated objects which concern all members of the Republic, but which are not to be attained by the separate provisions of any. Certain enumerated objects. Guess where that comes from? That certain enumerated objects are listed in Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution. I believe, I think, not 100% certain, but I think there are 18 of those items listed, of which 6, a full 1/3, have to deal with the Army and the Navy. The rest deal with mostly coinage of money. Some deal with punishments of things like treason. And there are a couple of others, like the one that says that the government needs to set up essentially a patent office or a copyright office that allows for authors of works of both science and literature to be guaranteed that they have exclusive rights to those works. Folks, it doesn't take a college degree to read the Constitution. It doesn't take a college degree to understand that the Constitution is specifically very finite in what the federal government is allowed to do. Folks, and especially to Shelley Cole, you need to wake up. You've been lied to. You've been lied to by your educators. You've been lied to by your teachers, by anybody that doesn't have a full and complete understanding. The intention of the Constitution was to create a very small but necessary, limited federal government. The federal government does not have the constitutionally mandated responsibility of education. It does not have the federally mandated responsibility of health care. It doesn't even have the federally mandated responsibility to supply you with additional monies like welfare. None of that is in the Constitution. And by the way, just to make you absolutely certain to understand this, I walked through all 27 of the amendments to the Constitution. All 27. There is not one single amendment to the Constitution that has added to nor taken away from Article 1, Section 8. It has never been modified. Never. So, while our government decides to just take our money and use it however they want, okay, to take our money and use it however they want, they are unconstitutionally doing so. And you know what? To even add fuel to that fire, not only was James Madison the one that actually said this, the anti-federalists who were the opposite of James Madison, John Jay, and Alexander Hamilton, who all wrote the Federalist Papers, the anti-federalists asked for and finally convinced the framers of the Constitution to add in what we know as the Bill of Rights, because they felt, even though James Madison felt and Alexander Hamilton felt, that no. You don't need a Bill of Rights because, the Bill of Rights, everything that's in there is already enumerated. We've already told the federal government this is all it can do. It can't take away your rights. It can't do this. It can't do that. Well, the anti-federalists insisted And that's where the first 10 amendments came from. Guess what's down at the bottom of the 10th, or in the 10th Amendment? Guess what's there? Oh, let me read it to you. Really, really quickly. The powers not delegated to the United States, meaning not delegated to the federal government by the Constitution, nor prohibited by the Constitution to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Meaning that the people or the states have much more control over everything that is going on. The federal government is outlined in the Constitution. Everything that is in the Constitution as of today is exactly what the federal government is allowed to do. And until somebody somewhere, and I'm talking to you, Shelley Cole, pull it out, baby. You're so smart. You have A's in all these legal classes and everything else. Pull this out. Pull this out. Show me the article, the section, and the paragraph number where it states in the Constitution of the United States that education is a requirement of the federal government, that funding, grants, loans, and funds, and all these other things that go off to whether it's foreign lands or whether it's science here at home, show me, where does it say that tax dollars are supposed to be spent in those places? Show me where that is. Show me within the Constitution where that is. Show me. I'm telling you, you can't because you refuse to. And I know because you refuse to, you know that you are wrong. You know that you are wrong. Now, let's get on to our favorite because, Shelley Cole, you started to hit me up today with regards to the Second Amendment. So let's talk about the Second Amendment. Really, really quickly. In fact, that wasn't even a part of what I was going to do, but let's just do it because it's you know, you have a problem, obviously, with understanding pretty simple English. So you were talking about the Second Amendment, and you pulled up, as all leftists do, well-regulated. You pull up that term, well-regulated. So here's the thing. I have a couple of things for you. First of all, well-regulated. Okay? Well-regulated. Define it. And I'm going to tell you how it was defined back in the 18 whatevers. You know, when this was 1798 or whatever it was, back in the 1800s. Well-regulated indicated and was most commonly used to mean in working order, in proper working order, such as a well-regulated clock or a well-regulated mind. Now, barring that definition, I just want to point out to you, simple English, okay? You remember that Common Core English that I was talking about? Here, let me just explain something to you. There are things known as adjectives. There are things known as nouns. There are things known as verbs and adverbs. But let's keep this really simple, okay? We have an adjective that is attached to a a noun in this sentence. It starts in the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia. Well-regulated being the adjective for the noun militia, meaning not a if somebody talks about regulations, because by the way, regulations didn't actually become a thing in terms of that terminology until a little bit later on in the 19th century. But the well-regulated is describing the militia. It is not describing the guns. So all of you leftist morons out there who sit there and talk about, well-regulated means that it needs to be regulated by the government. No. Even if you ignore the fact of the definition, it is referring to the militia, meaning that a well-regulated or a in working order militia. Now, here's the second part of that particular statement. Being necessary to the security of the free state. So they're basically saying a properly working militia being necessary to the security of a free state. In other words, a free state must have a properly working order militia. And in order to accomplish that properly working order militia, to help secure that state, you have the following sentence. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Let me just put this out there perfectly for you. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, meaning that you cannot take away the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Period. Now, in the phraseology, the way that they wrote back then is they would put forth the reasons why the following sentence needs to be said. The reason why the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed is because of the requirement of a properly working militia that is necessary to the security of a free state. Shelley Cole, you leftist, lunatic moron. And no, I'm not insulting you by saying that you are a moron. That is a fact. You obviously failed civics, regardless of how many times you sit there and tell me that you have this highly educated, highly degreed number of A's and have been through all kinds of constitutional law. I just took you to school. So go ahead. Listen to this program. And if you don't, I don't give a flying you-know-what. Because as I've pointed out to you in my missives on Facebook, regardless of how much you want to build yourself up, no matter how much you want to show me your arrogance, no matter how much you want to show me your moronic stupidity, you don't matter. Period. Because you don't. And I'm done with dealing with you. You post on my page again, and you try to post a whole bunch of bullshit, NPR, or any other kind of crap, yeah, I'm going to ban you. Period. You're just you're a waste of my time and a waste of my space on my page. End of story. All right. Oh, goodness. All right, I better get this in real quick. All righty, outdoor crew or anyone else who just wants to be ready for anything. Check out the Red Pro Series 72-hour emergency kit from Caddis Sports. CADDIS Sports. This is a serious 72-hour survival pack built into a rugged tactical backpack and loaded with everything that a single person needs. There's 2,400 calories of food bars. There's 5 water pouches. There's a thermal emergency blanket. You also get a 36-piece first aid kit. You also have an emergency stove and a canteen cup to be able to cook and all of that stuff. Now, all of this equipment has a 5-year shelf life, so you're covered for things like hurricanes, wildfires, blackouts, whatever life throws at you. Whether you're going off the grid or just want a peace of mind at home, or even throw one in your car so you have one available in case you get stuck away from home. Okay? Sorry, I lost my place. Go ahead and whether you're off the grid or just want a peace of mind at home, this is a must-have. This kit is a must-have. Compact, reliable, and made for real emergencies. Use promo code RUMBLE, R-U-M-B-L-E, RUMBLE, at checkout for 10% off your order at Caddis Sports, C-A-D-D-I-S sports.com. Go to caddissports.com, use promo code RUMBLE at checkout for 10% off your order, and go ahead and get the 72-hour survival kit, the Red Pro Series 72-hour emergency kit from Caddis Sports. That's caddissports.com. Gear up, stay safe, and be ready when it counts. Go to Caddis Sports, C-A-D-D-I-S sports.com. Use the code RUMBLE, R-U-M-B-L-E, to get 10% off your Red Pro Series 72-hour emergency kit. Go there today, order it today, and get 10% off your order today. Don't forget to use that promo code RUMBLE at caddissports.com. All right. Sorry, I had to get on my soapbox over that. I really did. She was driving me nuts because of the fact that she's just like a typical leftist. She believes that she knows everything and that somebody doesn't have an education. She kept asking me for like my credentials. Who the hell cares what my credentials are? See, you can have a PhD and still be a complete effing moron. Okay? Period. Speaking of effing morons, check this out. This is in Temecula, California. Okay? It's in Riverside County, California. It used to produce some of the finest wine grapes in the world. And now it's just turned into a cesspool of leftism. So apparently the Temecula California School District has now been told that if a girl says that she wants to, stay away from boys in her locker rooms because of their transgender ideology that they're pushing down there, okay, they can do it. But here's what they have to do. They have to fill out a form and admit that they have or are mentally ill. They have to file a mental health accommodation form in order to be excused from the locker rooms where boys are invading female spaces. Really? Really? So apparently the board, and I think it's the district board or the school board, approved this form at a meeting last week. The final approval is supposed to come later. You believe this shit? I mean, I'm sorry for the four-letter word, earmuffs for the kiddies, but seriously, you have to use this form and get a medical diagnosis. This is seriously what it says. You have to get a medical diagnosis from a doctor stating that you have a mental illness for this. I mean, how stupid is this? How dumb is this? This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. Oh my gosh. These people just don't want to give up. They really don't. Oh, and by the way, where I was talking about the school districts and the teachers unions, yeah, and the teachers unions, how the teachers unions have, control over our education and everything. Yeah, well, a Democrat rep just sort of, he went ahead and confirmed it. So Florida Representative Jared Moskowitz, who is a Democrat, acknowledged on Monday that the influence of the teachers unions basically were a key factor in the party's position on school closures during the COVID-19 pandemic. Moskowitz was on the interview, or doing an interview on the Chuck Todd cast, which is a podcast by Chuck Todd. Another moron. Anyway, Moskowitz told the host, Chuck Todd, that he had urged his fellow Democrats to support reopening schools, but his advice itself was ignored. Okay? He was telling his Democrat colleagues, this is his quote, "Guys, read the date like I would sit at a conference table with the governor," meaning the governor of Florida. And he recalled warning his colleagues that school reopening would be widely supported by parents. I mean, pretty much everybody knew that kids were not at risk, anybody with any brains anyway, that kids were not at risk of dying from this flu or whatever. Yeah. So, anyway. Yeah. If you think the school, the teachers unions don't have a lot of pull when it comes to curriculum or any of that stuff, yeah, all you got to do is listen to this. Listen to this guy. Anyway, all right, I've had enough. I got a couple of other articles that are just going to end up on the cutting room floor because we got to get to something happy. We really do. My temperature is up. My temperature is up there, and I keep forgetting about using my temperature things, which is really cool. But my temperature is up, so I gotta calm down. Well, that being said, let's get on to tonight's. As soon as I can find the freaking. Okay, let's get on to tonight's pet of the week. Yep. So there we go. Pet of the week. All right. Let me see. I was told by my whiskey warriors to go. Anyway. Hey, you guys all know Rumble drops out at the last end of the show for some stupid ass reason. But anyway. All right. So happier times. Let's move on to pet of the week. So tonight's pet of the week is submitted by none other than Coco, insert D name here, or D insert name here, or whatever. Anyway, Coco is sharing us a 2-part series. So not only is this going to be tonight, but we also have her for next week as well, which is perfect. So anyway, let me introduce you. Well, first, let me explain to you what's going on here. So Coco put in 2 separate submissions. This first one, she is going to introduce us. We all know Sean. Wonderful Sean. He is great. He loves the Pledge of Allegiance. We all love the Pledge of Allegiance that they submitted. And, it's just fabulous. But Sean had a horse. The horse's name was Maddie. Sean had Maddie since he was a young teenager. Now, unfortunately, over the summer, she developed an infection, went through 2 rounds of antibiotics, but the infection kept coming back, and then her kidneys began to fail, and she was put down a few weeks ago. Now, Grandma, unfortunately, hasn't taken Sean out to the stables yet. We don't know how he will react, and they have no idea how to tell him. But here's the thing. Little secret. Grandma is getting him a new horse in about a month. And because of that, that's what you're going to see next week. But let's talk about Maddie for tonight. So Sean, being autistic, Sean started what's called hippotherapy. Now, most people would think of that as, oh my gosh, he's running around with hippopotamuses. No, hippotherapy is equine therapy. It's horse therapy. They basically, what they do is they take people with, challenges like what Sean has, and they try to help them either heal if they're injured or, essentially break out of their shell, provide them with more interaction with an animal. And this particular animal happens to be a horse, but through the movement of the horse, they try to help people engage more. And so this therapy has been found that horses can help special needs individuals with physical, occupational, and speech therapies. Now, Sean immediately fell in love with the horses and took to riding like he was a pro. He became more relaxed and more attentive just sitting on a horse. Sean, I got to tell you, and Coco, you can tell Sean, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. Because my horses have been my psychologists for many, many years. I mean, just as an example, our old guy who just went through that medical condition a couple weeks ago, we purchased him at 7 years old. And I'm just going to tell you, the only reason why I own horses, other than the fact that I love to ride. I don't ride anymore, but I love to ride. But anyway, I'm Sean, I'm right there with you, buddy. I prefer hanging out with horses sometimes than I do hanging out with humans. So, anyway. When the hippotherapist moved away, Sean's grandma found Maddie, saw how calm she was, and purchased Maddie so that Sean could continue this wonderful therapy with her. So Maddie was a great friend to Sean, and unfortunately she has passed. And by the way, they fortunately were the exact same age. And so Sean, who is now 27, Maddie was also 27. So let me go ahead and show you. Now, you'll have to excuse me because I didn't set this up right, but give me just a second because I got to do this here. So here is an image of Sean and Maddie. And the words below say he's 18, severely autistic, mostly nonverbal, has a seizure disorder, Tourette's, and the most beautiful blue eyes. She's 18, which they're describing the horse here. She's 18, body scarred, pedigree unknown, and has panic attacks, and has the most beautiful brown eyes. And for this one moment, they shared the warmth of the sun and some peace in their worlds. Now, this isn't the only thing that we've got, folks. I have a couple of videos here that came through Facebook. So I'm going to go ahead and show you those. So this one here, this is Sean riding Maddie. As you can see, they are going around, or they're walking to go around a barrel. There he goes, going around the third barrel. Just look at that. He is calm, relaxed. Look at the way his feet are. He's not even like hurrying. He's not pushing her. He's not doing it. He's just relaxed in the saddle. He's sitting upright in the saddle, which, by the way, and he's perfectly centered in the middle. I mean, this is awesome. He looks like he just took it right to it naturally. Boy, look at the way she responded to that neck rein. That is just fantastic. And that isn't the only video. I've got one more video here. Here she is following him. Oops, sorry. I got to stop this other one first. Somehow. Okay, well, we'll just do this. So there he is. She's following him as he's doing the chores. There he is following. So, there you go. She obviously loves him because she follows him in the pasture. Which, believe me, when you have a horse and there's a famous trainer, and his name is oh shoot, I can't think of his last name, Monty, but Monty, I got a hat signed by him. But anyway, he's a famous trainer, and what he does is he trains horses, and he does these exhibitions with the horse, and he does these things with the horse. And the horse, and yes, by the way, this is the horse that passed, Pi. So basically what he does with the horse is he gets the horse to look to you as a herd mate and what he calls hook on. And so hooking on is essentially the horse following you in deference to following some of the other horses and things like that. So this is just fabulous. Just to have him drive around and her wanting to hang out with him is just incredible. It's just incredible. So, All right. Let me see. There's one other photo here. There he is hanging out with her in the field. They're just hanging out and just having fun. So there you go. Just an incredible amount. She's a beautiful bay. I love the white blaze on her nose. So anyway. And because I'm an equestrian kind of person, I love horses. So, but there you go. So we brought you Sean and Maddie, and next week we'll show you Sean, or we'll show you the new horse that's coming. All right, folks. If you would like to have your pet featured here on Pet of the Week for Wednesday nights, all you need to do is send me photos, videos, whatever you have, and a description of the animal, whether it's, name, story, whatever. I've even made up stories. I mean, some people have just sent me a picture and just said, hey, this is just a stray cat that showed up in my neighborhood. Make up a story. And I'll do that. But all you need to do is send it off to me. Send it to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online, and I will get you in for the program. Now, like I said, next week is Coco D insert name here's and Sean's new horse for him. But also, maybe I'll tell you a story about some of my horses one of these days. But anyway, but that's next week, but I don't have anything for the following week. So, anyway. All right, folks, we will see you tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Don't forget to go to rumble.com, sign up for an account. It is free. And once you are there, search up the American Perspective channel, hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, last thing before you take off, hit those thumbs up, or of course, if you really want to, thumbs down across all of my platforms, whether it's YouTube, X, Facebook, or of course, the aforementioned Rumble. As I said, we'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.